The topic for Chapter 15 is going to be the interactions now between the host, which is going to be us as humans, and the microbe, the bacteria. All right? So in terms of host-microbe interaction, we've got a series of steps that are going to be happen in the process of that infection. All right? So really what we're talking about here now is the infection of the host. All right? First thing that has to happen in order for a microbe to make us sick is it has to gain entry into our system. All right? There are a number of ways that this can happen, but what that microbe needs is essentially a portal of entry, okay? Meaning it has to have a way to get in. And in terms of that portal of entry, there's a diagram in the PowerPoints that kind of outlines the various portals of entry in the body, but most commonly things like the skin, the respiratory system, the digestive system, oops, I can spell. I promise I can spell. The urinary or the genitals can also be a portal of entry, all right? Because essentially those are areas of our body that are open to the environment, all right? Another one that's not on here, the conjunctiva or the eye, the lining of the eye, can be another way that pathogens gain entry to our bodies, okay? So in terms of that, once we've gained entry, those microbes have to have the ability to attach to the eukaryotic cells of our body, okay? And in terms of that, those fimbriae that we talked about way back towards the beginning of the semester, those are just essentially very small projections off of the bacteria. Those fimbriae allow for attachment to the surface of epithelial cells, because primarily what you're talking about here, most of the portals of entry, we're talking about being lined with epithelial cells. So that microbe has to be able to attach and latch on to the epithelial cells of the body. Fimbriae are one way of going about that. Capsules are another, okay? Remember, the capsules are that sugary coating that are released by bacteria. Capsules allow the bacteria not only to evade the immune system, but because it's made up of essentially a sugar, it can attach to surfaces within the body, okay? The other way we have attachment is going to be via various proteins, okay? With viruses, that can be those viral spikes that are on the outside of the virus. That allows that enveloped virus to gain entry into the host cell, all right? It might just be surface proteins on the bacteria, okay? There may be proteins on the outside of the bacteria that allow essentially that bacteria to use something that's already on the outside of our cells to gain entry, right? So in terms of that, we've got to enter, we've got to attach. Once those pathogens or those bacteria attach, they have to now be able to survive within the host, okay? And in terms of survival, essentially, the whole goal of survival is going to be avoiding the immune system, all right? Primarily what they're avoiding, those bacteria and those viruses are avoiding, are going to be phagocytosis, all right? And if it avoids phagocytosis via maybe the capsule that's around it, or by other factors that are secreted by the pathogenic bacteria, that then allows for cell division to happen. In the case of our bacteria, that would be binary fission that we talked about. For our viruses, that would be viral replication. Okay? So in terms of that, it's going to attach, it's going to survive. Once it survives and it starts dividing, now those pathogens, whether it be viral or whether it be bacterial, can cause damage within your cell. All right? So in terms of that, the damage within your cell is going to essentially be what makes you feel sick. Okay? And it's going to depend on the type of pathogen as far as the damage that's going to go. But in terms of that damage, we're talking about things like death of that eukaryotic cell, may cause the cell to not function correctly, all right? In the case of something like strep pyogenes, Streptococcus pyogenes is the bacteria that causes strep throat. If you've ever had strep throat or you have a kid who's had strep throat, you know when they open their mouth, their throat looks really red, okay? And in terms of that, the way that strep pyogenes is causing damage is because it has what's known as a virulence factor. In the case of strep pyogenes, that virulence factor is a hemolysin, all right? That hemolysin, just like the name kind of says, hemo refers to blood, lyse means to break something open. So essentially what those strep pyogenes bacteria have the ability to do is they secrete a toxin, the hemolysin, that breaks open your red blood cells. That's what kind of gives the red appearance associated with the with strep throat. All right. So we've got entry, we've got attachment, we've got survival, we've got damage that is caused from our pathogen, and then next, that particular pathogen is going to want to move on to another host. Okay. So in terms of that, that pathogen, whether it be bacterial or viral, is going to need to find a portal of exit. And really the portal of exit is going to be that same list that I have over here with the portal of entry. Keep in mind the particular bacteria or the virus may not leave by the same method it got into your body. All right? An example of that would be the polio virus. Polio virus, remember, is a fecal-oral transmission. So it gains entry into your body via the digestive system, all right, via the mouth. It's going to exit also via the digestive system, but it's not going to exit via the mouth. It exits via the anus, via the fecal matter, okay? So the system is the same, but where it actually enters and exits is going to be different, okay? In terms of that, things like the measles virus, you inhale particles of that virus, it enters via the respiratory tract. You sneeze or cough, it's going to exit via the respiratory tract also, okay? So sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're a little bit different. Kind of all depends on the particular pathogen. I'm not going to ask you to know all of the portals of entry and exit for all pathogens. Ones that I talk about in the videos and I have in the PowerPoints, those are what you want to focus on, okay? So overall, this is going to be how infection happens within the body. And keep in mind, in order for that infection to happen, we have to have a pathogen, all right? And really that definition of something that's pathogenic for this class, anyway, is something that's going to make people sick, okay? And typically bacteria or viruses, if they're pathogenic, especially with bacteria, a lot of times they make those virulence factors. That's what makes them pathogenic, okay? You have some bacteria that don't necessarily have to be pathogenic, like the E. coli that we focused on with that first extra credit assignment. E. coli is part of your normal digestive system. But the E. coli 0157 or whatever it was is a different strain of E. coli that has a virulence factor, all right? It actually causes lysis of red blood cells or wreaks havoc within the body. So keep that in mind, all right? If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you for your attention.